Welcome back, everyone, to BBB Sharing. I'm Evie, Director of Ignite, and today I have a very, very special guest. I have Miss Linda Hawkins from Recover Hope, the President and CEO. Linda, how are you?
I'm good. I'm a little nervous because human trafficking is a hard topic to
It
talk
is.
to people. There are people that will walk away from you,
Yeah.
and others that are like, tell me more, tell me more. Don't ever say that to me because I could talk to you all day about it.
It does tend to go very polar opposite like that
Yes.
when it comes to serious social issues in the community. But I want you to tell me in simple terms, what is human trafficking?
Human trafficking on the base of it is the exploitation of vulnerability, which means anybody can be. The things we look for in adults with human trafficking is their force, is their fraud, is their coercion. And we go into all of that with our training because it's not just something I can sit here and tell you in a sentence. As far as the federal and state mandates, we do not have to prove force, fraud, or coercion when it comes to minors, which is really good.
Yeah.
That takes some pressure off of them. There are a lot of things that are coming down the road to help youth not to be re-traumatized.
So tell me, what is a situation that would make you recognize that there's a trafficking situation going on?
The
What are some
first,
tips?
the first thing that just popped in my mind is a tattoo of a barcode. And I don't know why. I think it's because we were talking to somebody in the tattoo business yesterday. Often traffickers will put a barcode showing ownership. Don't anybody mess
On
with
the
her.
individual
On
that
the
they
end,
traffic.
exactly.
Really?
Exactly. The other thing is like they go and do normal things like everybody else. They go buy cars, they go get haircuts, whatever. The thing is that you want to watch for, and it's not, don't mistake me, it's not always men that do the trafficking. But if a man's got a girl that seems a lot younger, or she's looking down, she looks really timid, he answers for her when she's spoken to, or he's got his arm around her and he pulls her in when anyone says anything to her. And those are just some of the small things. Grades may drop for those that are living at home and are being trafficked. There's a scenario for that because
Really?
yeah, that's part of the coercion is if you don't do what I say, if you tell anybody, I know where you live, I'll kill your parents, I'll do the same thing to your little brother or sister. I mean, so they can be going to school and all, but a lot of times their grades will drop.
Yeah.
They start to isolate from other kids. And that's really hard to determine because a lot of times kids doing drugs, fentanyl and all these days are isolating.
Yeah.
So, we wear shirts and we had plastered everywhere. If you see something, say something. It's not really a trademarked saying. Police, the world uses it. We would rather, and police would rather you call and report something suspicious and be wrong
Yeah.
than to be right and do nothing about it.
It's better to ask for forgiveness afterwards.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I won't say all police, we're still doing a lot of training. They're training us, we're training them. There's still some departments in different areas of the state and the country and everywhere else that says that doesn't happen here. They don't get educated on it, which is one of our big things that we're working on doing now.
It happens everywhere. I don't care what anybody says.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
So,
How would I be able to determine if I'm getting sucked into a trafficking situation?
oh wow, that is such a good question. Is somebody, you start to date somebody and they don't listen to what you want to do. They say, let's go do this. That's a coercion
Okay.
right there, is sucking in is a really good term there, Evie. That you can be drawn into. And oftentimes, once the brainwashing, the Stockholm syndrome takes effect, the victims will defend they're
You feel
traffickers.
justified about
Yeah,
that.
justify, he's really a good guy, or she's really a great, she's like a mom figure to me, or
Or
he's
they've
like a
been through
dad.
a lot, you don't understand.
Right,
Wow.
right. And so, we've all been teenagers and we've done the same thing. Mom and dad didn't like that guy or whatever. You don't know what you're talking about. Well, guess what? Mom and dad's not always wrong, but sometimes mom and dad are the ones trafficking.
Really?
Yeah, that's the heartbreaker for me.
That's so awful.
It is awful, and oftentimes it's more the mom that does it, and
I
it can
just can't wrap my head around that.
as a mom, I can't either, and it literally physically
Makes you
makes
ill.
it makes me
Yeah.
ill to even say it, but it's something that needs to be said. And that's not to say go out there and look at every mom suspiciously. Single moms, I was a single mom for the last 8 years of my child's life. And so they have a tough road to hoe. They're not able to watch everything, but we didn't go out and sell our kids. In fact, I didn't know anything about trafficking until I crashed and burned physically from nursing. We
Really?
weren't taught that, and there's actually a global organization of nurses because we're fighting to get this recognized by everybody. There are some good places. Bon Secours is really good on getting the word out and recognizing it and helping communicate. In fact, our two missions are community engagement and then trying to get resources to open a 2-year free residence for restoration and healing for the survivors.
Wow. So the way I'm thinking about it now is how can you approach a situation where someone is being trafficked? You've studied the signs, you've been trained, but you're not a nurse, you're not a police officer, you're just a regular person who's found interest in this particular social issue. How can you approach that situation?
Well, number one, I want to address something you just said. Police and medical staff are not mandated to report. We are for physical abuse, child abuse, even teachers. The only ones mandated right now are the hotels. And I will tell you, Hilton does a phenomenal job because they were doing it long before it was mandated.
What?
Yeah, I only stay at Hilton's. They've helped us with some survivor stays, and they just are so good at it. So that I wanted to put out there first. Don't assume that all police and all nurses and all that we know. I will tell you that Chesterfield County, when Chief Katz, who has left us for the FBI now, when he came, he decided to get our entire county certified in NCMEC, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, trained. And that included our communications center.
Mhm.
So that if you call they're not going, I don't know what to do, whatever.
They can probably pick up on some cues.
Yeah, so they can call. I would call the national hotline or 911 if you're in Chesterfield. Henrico deals with it a lot. I don't know about their communications center, and I meant to reach out to them and find out what if they do. I expect they do because of the volume that they deal with. But number one, the first thing we tell you is try to get in your mind a picture of the individual that you think is trafficking. Get a description of the car, get a license plate. Things happen so fast, sometimes you cannot get them. Do not, whatever you do, approach them. Yes, you are not trained in that. I'm not trained in that. And physically, I'd be, a puddle in a moment because I don't have the strength to deal with that. Plus, you don't know if they're armed, and sometimes they are. So I would say, make the report. That's the see something, say something, call, tell them. I had a friend call me one day and say they were at a lunch place. And they said, we saw these two people and they came in and they got food and then they shoved some under the back of the box truck. And they said, we couldn't get the license number. And I'm like, did you call the police? And they said, no, we called you first. I tell them, call the police first because
Describe
we-
the truck.
Yeah, describe the truck the best you can, because we were at an intersection. It was at Powhite, 288, Whole Street Road. I mean, by the time they got the information, they were long gone, who knows where. I said, you can call me afterwards and I'll help you deal with the trauma of doing that. Because it is traumatic. It's traumatic for me. People call me all the time and go, please call the police first. They can get there, they can get a description. And so, it is scary. People are scared they're going to be wrong. It's okay. I tell people I'm a fool all the time. I'd rather be a fool
Yeah.
than to let somebody get hurt on my watch.
And I don't know if you've heard about situations like this happening very often, but a personal experience that I had years ago before COVID, my sister went to George Mason University, and I would visit her, and we would go to Georgetown very often just to look around, window shop. And there was a gentleman that I noticed following us into each store. And so finally, I got very irritated because I could tell I'm the type of person, my sister is too, our parents raised us to be very hyper aware of our surroundings, trust nobody ever. I know it's cynical and quite jaded to feel that way, but it's appropriate for this time period. And I walked up to him and I yelled, I said, "What's your problem, man?" I said, "What do you want? You followed us from every single store. I've been watching you. I've taken a picture and a video of you. What's your problem?" Turn around, ran.
Yeah.
You just know, like those red flags, your spidey senses, the back of your neck is tingling, you know.
And
How often do you see those?
that's the thing, is you hear people doing things all the time. I know one situation we had, and I called the police chief of the jurisdiction I was in. And so he looked into it, and it ended up the guy that was following her, the lady that was trying to tell me her daughter had been followed. He was the person in one of the big box stores that was watching for shoplifters, and come to find out she had actually gotten arrested for shoplifting. So yeah, people make up stories. So that, that's the part you talk about cynical. I get it. I get it. It's easy, and you don't want to demean anybody and what they've witnessed, but always come back. This particular police chief called me back and he said, here's what went on, and just told me, they don't put it out there. Somebody said, oh, there were 10 girls arrested, taken away in a Walmart, and the police wouldn't do anything. There was no such of a thing. And some people just do that stuff because they like attention.
Yeah, they want their 15 minutes.
Right.
I think there's a difference between picking up on cues. Like, why is a single man walking around by himself
Right.
looking in the women's shoe department?
Yes.
That's weird.
That's not even an intimate gift
Exactly.
to give your loved
I
one.
don't know of any man I would ever want shopping for shoes for me, unless it's a pair of sneakers because my heels are killing my feet.
There you go. There you go.
But what are some other things that you would say are red flags? Like if you're walking to your car and you see something on your car, or you're shopping at the grocery store.
I would, that was going on for a while. They were leaving bags, plastic bags and stuff like that on the
I think
doors.
zip ties.
Zip
too.
ties, yeah. Get in your car and flee. Call the police on your way. They may ask you to come and do something, but that's not a usual thing. How many people put zip ties on your car and plastic bags?
I'm still paranoid and I check anyways, but it doesn't
Yes.
ever happen.
Yes, and and they tell you, look under your car and all, but you can also be putting yourself at risk.
By taking all that time.
Right, if you stop, and if you're weak physically, like I don't have the strength I used to when I was a cardiac nurse, that you can, they can overpower you. In fact, I've even talked to law enforcement and said, I've shot a gun before, but I found that I freeze. And I said, should I get a taser? And they went, no, because if you freeze, they've got a weapon to use against you, and it's your weapon. So, you have to decide for yourself. We have at our board retreat, we were taught, can you last 3 minutes. It was self-defense. And it was not the physical or anything. It was like telling you these things. And actually, I'm just going to say it, Tax Solutions out there. They're good friends and supporters of ours. We met them in the chamber and they came out and they trained our whole team on what to do. So, my recommendation when I was in school at VCU, the campus police actually offered self-defense classes.
Really?
Yeah, to staff and all. But we were always on call, so whoever had time. But if you've got some things, some opportunities like that, I say go for it. In this day and time, like you said, we are in a different season. You're in a different environment now. So you got to take care of you. But also we got to watch out for each other. So make that phone call.
I agree. Who are people that are very easily targeted?
Oh my gosh, anybody and everybody. I know girls that have come from affluent families. They were vulnerable. And so they got people pleasers, got sucked right in, thought these were my friends, and they weren't. They ended up being trafficked. And by that time, you're so vulnerable. The mentality of this, the psychological toll on this, it's really psychological warfare to get you under control. And if you don't, they may use drugs to make you compliant. Right. So then you get into the drug addiction part, which is such a huge thing. So
it's crazy to hear. I grew up very detached from socializing, especially in middle school and high school because of the school that I went to. My sister was very similar. We were very much the opposite. Instead of wanting attention whenever and wherever we got it, we wanted to, instead of sitting in the lunchroom, rather sit in a room with a book and be completely left alone and not bothered. And so now thinking back to myself, I'm like, okay, was it hard? A difficult road to go through to get back to where I am now? Yes, but I would have rather gone through that again 100 times over than be the type of person that has to deal with far worse trauma now,
right,
psychologically, than that.
A lot of the survivors that I know were actually groomed in their childhood. They say the average age is 10 to 11, 10 to 14, but I have known survivors that started earlier than that. And it's called adverse childhood experiences. Any therapist can tell you about this. And we do a lot of training on that because what happens to us in our childhood carries on to how we respond to the things that happen to us, like trafficking, like drug addiction, all of that. Do you have family support? Not everybody has the family support that you and I had. And even with that, sometimes we make wrong decisions. But I chalk them up to being good learning experiences to not do that again.
Exactly. Well, Linda, how can people get in contact with you?
Well, we have a website called www.recoverhope.org. There's no Y on that recover. Or you can email us at info@recoverhope.org. So go to our website. All of our contact information is on there. We've got a lot of things. We do a lot of outreach events, and we've got some coming up.
Yes, you do. And we're going to get ready to, right after this, and in part 2, we're going to talk about the event you guys have coming up. Our CEO and president of the Better Business Bureau, Barry Moore, is going to join us, and he's going to ask you a few questions. Anyone watching on YouTube, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below in the video. It helps the algorithm, and make sure to share it out to people. And if you're listening on Spotify, again, follow us, share it out, and comment. Thank you.